Hi, here we are with our BSA Super 10 project gun. What I've done is I've taken the stock off of it so we can kind of get an idea what how the internals work on it. The bottle, of course, screws in here. This is the regulator. So there's a bolt here and a nut here in the stock that you take out, and then that exposes this essentially. 4 hex head screws, lifts off, and there's the regulator there. This nut fits into the slot there on the regulator, and then that's what you use for your bolt. The bolt lug goes into. And then we put those aside. And by the way, this only fits in one way. If it doesn't fit, something's wrong. And you would stop and check it out. By the way, I also use one of these, throw all my parts in here as I go so I don't lose anything. And if it has to sit overnight, I'll put the cover on and keep it all intact there, so hopefully I won't lose anything. The regulator sits in here. One thing to note about it is this is the transfer port, and this have to be aligned. The transfer port's here, and there's a screw here, and if they're not aligned, it won't fit. And again, you have to, if it doesn't fit, something's not right. The transfer port itself sits right here, and there's an O-ring on each end, which I've already taken off, but it essentially takes the air from the regulator here down through into the barrel and then out the barrel. And the way this works, this sits in here, the hammer comes forward, and I'm going to move the gun out of here so we can kind of see it. But the hammer comes up and hits this, and you can see where there's a mark on it. That's where the hammer's been hitting it. And this is an anti-bounce device, so when you hit that, it hits the valve stem, pushes the valve open. I'll show you that in just a minute. The air comes up through here, and then it bounces back off of the stem. And this ball bearing is spring-loaded, and that holds it from going forward and continuing to tap on the valve stem and release air. So this is kind of an anti-bounce device. It's intended to minimize your air usage. This is the exhaust valve itself. This is the valve spring. Here's the valve. The hammer debounce device hits this. This hits this, opens it up, pops the valve off. You can see how that pops the valve off when it hits. This spring pushes it back closed, and the pressure in the compression chamber pushes it back closed, and we're ready to shoot again. There's other components in here. There's an O-ring and some spacer material. And you've got to get a snap ring in there. You have to have some snap ring pliers to get that out. This is the valve itself, the seal. This is the part here that seals against the inside of that. So something like that. There's a valve spring guide in here, and that actually doubles as a valve spring guide for the exhaust valve, but also, we'll see in just a minute, works on the operations of the regulator, the intake side as well. Okay, so the bottle goes in here, and if you look at the bottle, you'll see that there is that white thing is actually a piece, the seal in there. So when you fill it from your scuba tank, the air in your tank is higher than the air here, and it pushes that off of its seat. And then when you release the air from your hose, this shuts again. There's a valve assembly in here as well, similar to this one. And then on this side, you can see inside there, there's a the plunger kind of a thing here, this post. That post is what fits inside here and pushes that, pushes the valve open, releasing the air into the regulator. And it keeps it open as long as these two are screwed in together. Set that aside. Okay, this housing just fits over the top of this. There's the plunger that goes into the bottle. It's essentially like that when it's you know, put together. And this is the start of the regulator. I'm going to take this compression chamber off for now, and we'll take a look at this and see how it works, or how I think it works anyway. And one of the reasons I don't recommend that a person do this themselves is this is the hardest regulator I've ever seen to get apart. I mean, it was tight, and I'm not sure why that would be exactly, but it was using a long bar and a team of mules to get this thing screwed on, and it was really hard to get it apart. And this piece here, it's not screwed in all the way now, but this is pressurized usually. Air seeps in behind here. There's some seals in there, and when you unscrew this, this piece can go flying. So you have to be aware of that. And that's, you know, for a person who's only doing maybe one Super 10 every however many years, you're better off sending it off to somebody to have them do it. On the intake side, you have the plunger here. The air flows from the bottle through this. There's a little tiny hole in here, and there's a couple of cutouts here for the air to get past. And this is contains a spring and a ball bearing here. So the way it works is there's a seal in here on this end. You might be able to see there's a white seal that, and it's got a little piece of a metal plunger sticking up through it right now. But so what happens is you have this ball bearing sits on the seal. It's spring loaded to keep it in place, and the air flows through this mechanism through here and into the compression chamber here. On the other side of that, what keeps that ball off of the seat and that seal so that the air can get past the seal is this plunger. Essentially, the ball bearing sits with the plunger here, with the seal in between them, and this pushes that ball bearing off of the seat, the seal, so that the air can get past. When the air equalizes enough, this comes back and seats back on that O-ring in there, the seal, and prevents more air from going through. This is the plunger. This piece here essentially sits against the plunger, and there's a couple of shims usually between the two. The plunger sits in here, and you can see that there's some threads that have been cut out right here on this side. And that allows the air to flow past the ball, past the plunger, and then through this cutout into the compression chamber. So really what the regulator does is depends on the interaction of the ball and the plunger here. And if the plunger seats the ball way up high in this side of the regulator, then you have essentially high pressure on the compression chamber side. If it sits low, you have low pressure on this side and high pressure on that side. So the height of this plunger is really what controls the pressure in the compression chamber. That it's what the valve sees. And the way that that's adjusted is with these shims that sit between the plunger and this unit here. And these 3 shims here, we'll put them on a, just to get an idea, these 3 here are about 25 thousandths of an inch. So that's how much they'd shimmed between this and the base of the plunger. The other end of this assembly here, is what controls the pressure as well. You have this spring, sits in there like that, inside of this housing. Then that spring pushes the plunger up to unseat the ball when the pressure is low within the compression chamber. When the pressure builds in here, that pushes this back into here, lowers the piston or the plunger, and the ball seats again on the O-ring in there. So another way to you can adjust this is by shimming the spring within this. And there's 4 shims in there. And we'll just see how big they are here. We've got, there's about 90. There's another 90 thousandths or so. It's 180 plus 30 is 210 plus another 30 is 240 thousandths. And I have never seen one that was shimmed that high within this assembly here. In fact, I've never seen anything over 200. So this is one of the reasons why it was so highly sprung and caused our pressure to be 2,500 PSI. And I'm thinking now that the regulator wasn't even working, just because you put 3,200 PSI into the bottle here. By the time you add this much volume, the pressure is going to be lower. And so that 2,500 may have just been off of the bottle, no regulation at all. I'm going to leave all this out for now. So with the air in the compression chamber then, this is what's pressurized to what the valve sees. So when you push this, the air rushes out of here, the pressure goes down, that plunger pushes up against the ball, letting air flow from the bottle through there into the compression chamber until the pressure gets high enough to push that plunger back down, and the ball comes back and sits on the O-ring. I think. Okay, so that's what we have. That's the BSA Super 10 regulator, the one we're going to be working on, and I hope you enjoyed the video.